Today we have a special guest on the show. Hi, my name is Rory Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Archery Talk 101. And we have Jeff on the line with us. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure for sure.
Yeah, could you introduce yourself and let the audience know a little something about you?
Sure, my name is Jeff Dysinger. I've been shooting a bow since 1977. I'm one of the few, not one of the, I am, I guess, one of the few people that have literally seen archery go from recurves to where it's at today. I know in 77, I was 10 years old, my first hunt, and was shooting an old McPherson 45-pound recurve with mismatched arrows and everything else. And then, to my knowledge, the first real compound bow was probably Fred Bear's Whitetail Hunter. Somebody could probably, Google that or whatever, but that was my first compound bow, was a Fred Bear. And so, what's weird is to think about how many deer I killed with that thing, at such a young age, and shooting a whopping probably maybe 220 feet per second, maybe.
Yeah.
If that. Yeah, if that, right. That's true. The 6 cables and all that mess, and thing weighed about 14 pounds. And, and then to where we're at today with all the technology and everything. But man, I have literally lived one of the most blessed lives an archery person, archery hunter, shooter could ever live. So, I'm really, truly blessed that I got to grow up the way I did, and got to do the things that I ended up getting to do. And so, no, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here today. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what got you started in archery? What made you pick up that bow for the first time?
Well, I will tell you that in Tennessee, that's where I grew up, here in Tennessee. I had an uncle that owned, at the time, was a camping center kind of thing, and started to mess around with some outdoor stuff. And now he's one of the biggest outdoor dealers in Middle Tennessee now. But, we didn't have any deer back then. If somebody saw a doe, even a doe, that was a pretty big deal. And we were fortunate. I had, I don't know, a lot of land to hunt through our family and whatnot. But, I grew up, I was a bird dog, really. The first, I got my first shotgun, I guess, when I was probably about 8 or 9. But before that, I was, they would shoot quail and doves and all of that. And I was basically a living human bird dog. And then somebody gave my dad an old 45-pound McPherson recurve. And with my uncle having his store, I would get every broke arrow, mismatched arrow, and just got to where, I'd start off with a hay bale and all that. And got to where, about 25 yards, I could group a pie plate pretty good. And then started, shortly after that, we started the very first, it's called the Dickson County Bow Hunters Association in Dickson, Tennessee. And my cousin Ricky, who now owns the Sportsman store, he was a senior in high school, I think. And we have a place over here called Montgomery Bell, and he worked the deal, and we ended up building an archery range there, and started having archery shoots. And that was way before 3D was even thought about. They were, gosh, I want to say they were old cotton bells with paper on there, and, had the scoring rings and all of that. And so that's kind of how I got started. And then probably in like 79, 80, somewhere in there, I got my first compound bow, which was that old Whitetail Hunter, and started shooting that. And then PSE kind of came out, and it was kind of cool because here I am, a kid, teenager. I'm shooting against the men and winning a lot, and learning a lot of lessons about psychology, I guess is the way to say that. Because boy, I mean, they could say one thing and have you down another lane really quick. And so my uncle helped sponsor me and got me my first PSC, and I want to say it was something like a Mach Flight 2 or 3 or something like that. And it's a wonder nobody died back then, because it was all about trying to get that speed, because there was no speed limits, and it was before ASA and IBO and all of that. And we're shooting overdraws, and shooting 16-inch arrows, and like I said, it's a wonder nobody died. But something, if there's any young shooters on here, especially target shooters, man, the next time you're at an archery shoot and you see an old guy like me running around, go up and say thank you, because they did all the testing for the crap y'all are doing today. I'm just telling you right now. I mean, you can think all the bow manufacturers and all of that, but I mean, we literally had nobody to go to. I mean, nobody knew anything about the sport. It was all hypotheses, and so, trying to design arrows and rest and stabilizers and all of that mess. I mean, and the bows were, probably twice as heavy as they are today, and probably 3 times as slow. So, you're just trying to create that speed just to give you, a little more consistency and whatnot, and of course scopes and stuff like that weren't even thought of back then. Nobody thought about that. I remember when the pendulum sight came out, and that was like, it was like watching an alien land, it was something crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. But, it was kind of cool because, like I said, they started that Dickson County Bowhunters Association in 77, and I was the youngest member at the time. And so I guess that kind of makes me the oldest member of the club now. So we have a place up here, and I'm sure a lot of these guys on here know about it. It's called Land Between the Lakes. And that's about an hour and a half, 2 hours from me where I'm at. And it's a piece of property that the government has, and it spans Kentucky and Tennessee. And back in the day, that was one of the only places you could find a deer hunt, where there was actually deer. And probably my biggest influence, growing up, was watching videos of, Fred Bear and all of his hunts and stuff. And in 1981, I was probably like 14 maybe. And so the Dickson County Bowhunters, what they would do is they would pick a week during October, usually the end of October, because it's closer to the rut. And of course, we didn't, this was before, well, let me back up. So I got started before there was really, compounds. I remember when the Baker tree stands came out. That was the best Christmas. Everybody goes, "What was your best Christmas?" I was 12. Man, I got a Baker tree stand. I got a new H&R single shot shotgun, and got some camouflage that, like we know today, like the stuff I'm wearing now, wasn't even thought about then. I want to say that Realtree and all those guys, they didn't come out until, gosh, I'm guessing maybe like 83 or 4 or something like that, maybe. But in 1981, we were all down there, and of course my dad would take me to all these, and I had cousins and uncles that were a part of it. And so you just got, I hope I'm not misquoted, but I think it's like 190,000 acres that spans Tennessee and Kentucky up there between Lake Barkley and the Tennessee River. And so what they would do is they would just drop me off they had cornfields or bean fields, and you basically just pick a field and go up there and try to set your tree stand up and hunt. And so I was one of those kids, from the get-go that I'd get there before daylight, and they would pick me up at dark, and so that was my Colorado, my Montana, that was my wild place, back then. And so in 81, I had killed this little bitty 6-point, but he was huge to me. He wasn't even 100 inches probably, but he was a giant to me. And I shot him about I shot him about 3:00 in the afternoon. And so by the time I got down, I'd only killed maybe 1 or 2 deer before that. And so here I am trying to field dressing by myself and all that. And I'm trying to pull him across this cornfield. And I probably don't weigh 100 pounds. And so I'm not even halfway through this cornfield. It's dark. I'm afraid that they're going to miss picking me up. We really didn't have flashlights back then and that kind of stuff, like we do today. And so I got to the point where I would take my tree stand and my bow and go about 40, 50 yards, drop it off, come back, pull the deer to that. So I was, just kind of leapfrogging it, and I'm in the middle of this cornfield. It's dark. And out of nowhere, I hear this voice behind me that says, "Son, you need help?" And I said, "No, sir, I got it." I was scared to death. I didn't know who it was. And he goes, "No, you need help. I've been watching you for the last 45 minutes. He goes, "You need a lot of help." And I'm like, he goes, "Grab your tree stand and grab the bow and let's drag this deer." And I'm like, okay. Well, we're in the dark. And so we get there and my dad pulls up and the headlights hit and it's Fred Bear. Fred Bear helped me drag this deer across this cornfield. And I didn't really understand who it was until he goes, "Well, I'm glad to see you're shooting one of my bows." And I'm like, Fred, I even had like Fred Bear's hat on, that little goofy Robin Hood hat he used to wear.
Yeah.
And I even had one of those on. I mean, that's how big of an idol this guy was to me. And I'm like, "Oh my God, you got to come back to our camp." And because nobody will believe me, and all that. And sure enough, he did. He came back to the camp and, so he was with, I can't think of the guy's name now, but they were up there hunting fallow deer. That's when you could still hunt fallow deer in Land Between the Lakes, which is pretty cool. So, anyway, that happened, with him, and which was really cool. And so in 1990, I'm trying to think the first year that ASA started. I think it was 93. I was in the Army. No, I wasn't. I wasn't in the Army. I was in college. And ASA had come out. They said they were going to start their ASA tournament and all that. Well, I wasn't shooting the pro class. I was shooting like, I don't know, like one of the other classes, like the limited A or unlimited A or whatever it was, and messed around and won. And it was down in Gainesville where Fred Bear has his archery center and his museum and all that. And he was actually giving out the trophies and the checks for all of that. And when I got to shake his hand, I asked him if he remembered me. And sure enough, he did. He didn't know who I was then, but once I told him where we met and all that, he's like, "Heck yeah, I remember that." So that was kind of always one of those things, that just kind of stuck with me. And if my dad were here right now, he would tell you that I've quit more good jobs to deer hunt than any person that he's ever met. When I was a kid, I would work at like Captain D's, and I'm like, "Hey, I need Saturday and Sunday off." And they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Well, I'm done." So because it's opening day of deer season. So, but no, so graduated high school in 85. During those years, I learned real young when I was 16 and was able to drive that all these farms that like my dad and his friends would try to hunt, they wouldn't let them hunt because, they're grown men and whatnot. And I would go up and knock on the doors, and here's this 16-year-old, and I'm telling them I'm on a bow hunt, and they just kind of laugh at me. And they're like, "Yeah, if you think you can kill one, go ahead." And so I got to where I was killing big deer and at a young age, and kind of got noticed doing that. And then, of course, the archery tournaments and stuff. And I ended up winning ASA Shooter of the Year. I've won it 4 times, like 94, 95, 2002, and 2010. And what's really funny is, I shoot for Matthews, but all of those are with a recurve, every one of them. So, and so this year kind of marked, I kind of, when I went in the woods this year, obviously I bow hunted with my Matthews, but there was one hunt in Kentucky that we have a farm up there, and got some really good friends of mine that I hunt with came up, and I broke out those stick bow and regretted it. I'm not gonna lie. I had 2 or 3 bucks come in and does, and were just out of range where it would have been a pop shot with a compound, and but it was fun to put one in my hand again this year. So yeah. So I kind of range all over the place with when I love shooting traditional, but I also love shooting compounds and everything that brings to the table. So
Yeah, the
yeah,
different world when you pick up the traditional bow as opposed to the compound.
yeah, especially when you hadn't done it in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally different game for sure. But I will tell you, I mean, putting a recurve or a longbow in your hand and you're out there hunting, I mean, it really does make you hunt a lot harder, and
Yeah.
you have to become more stealthy and that sort of thing. So that was a fun challenge, It was fun to know that I got close enough to, if I'd had a compound, it'd been done. So, but I mean, the first elk I ever killed was in '94, and I killed it in Montrose with what was that? I want to say it was one of those Martins, like Savannah longbows or whatever. And it was my first time out there. And back then, you could kill any elk. You kill spike or, a regular bull or cow or whatever. And, I ended up shooting a spike at like 5 yards. And that was the greatest day of my life. I thought I had really hit the big time when I did that. So, and then I ended up moving to Colorado in '95. So I went in the Army in '85 and was with the 75th Special Forces down in Fort Benning. And then, went to college. And then after college, I came back to Nashville and kind of bummed around Nashville. I've always been a musician. And so, played music, did this and that. And then in '95, I moved to Colorado and became a guide, a big game guide with Pikes Peak Outfitters there. And that was always a goal of mine, was to go do that. I read all the magazines and all the stories about Colorado and got out there, and man, I was in my element when I was there. So I got it there. I actually messed around and won Guide of the Year '96 and '97. That's also about the time I met Aaron Snyder. And so Aaron's a big traditional guy. And so we would shoot some of these, like the CBA and all of that, which I'd like to give a shout out to those guys, man. They're doing some good work right now. Colorado's trying to make every unit a draw unit. And so you're not going to be able to go out there and just buy over the counter tag. And so I think they're on our side on that one, trying to keep some over the counter units going, because I get why they're trying to do it, but I don't know. I'm still passionate about out west, Colorado, Montana, especially Arizona and New Mexico. Those places are just elk meccas. And of course, mule deer hunting, the one you see behind me, that's about 180-inch muley I killed, I don't know, a few years back, and on a spot in Stockton, Colorado. So, but I lived out there for up until 2015, I guess it was. In 2002 or 2003, I started a glass company out there, and I just wanted to be out in the elk woods and of course mule deer and bear and all that, and so I was in Pagosa Springs for years and really got to know that area and whatnot, and so just did a ton of elk hunting. I will tell you, when you're shooting the tournament circuit, it's really hard to shoot, to go do that from those areas, because that's a real commitment. You're on a plane, and you're not going to drive 6 hours to go shoot tournaments. And so, you get on planes and do all that. And so, these guys that are doing it today, of course, Tim Gillingham, he's kind of a different animal. He can afford to do it. Back then I couldn't. But so it was a real challenge for me to have to, do my schedule and all of that. And so, in 2015, I also play a lot of golf. And so in 2015, sold the company and moved to South Carolina, and went and got my PGA card, and moved. I wanted to get back to Middle Tennessee. And so I took a head pro job in Kentucky, up in a little town called Benton, Kentucky, and was the head pro there. And man, loved being back in the South, just closer to all the tournaments and all that kind of stuff, and to all the guys I hunt with. I've only got like 3 guys that I really hunt with, as far as travel and hunting. I'll give a quick shout out to Justin Walski. He's in Michigan now, but he and I grew up together, and he's kind of our tech guy, man. Any new stuff that comes out, he's on it. And he's although I've known Aaron a lot longer than he has, he does a lot of stuff with Kafaru and Mountain Ops and those guys. And then there's 2 brothers here in Franklin where I live. Actually, Brock's in Memphis now, but Brock and Chase Gilbert, I met them on the side of a mountain in a wilderness area in Colorado about 5 years ago, and saw their truck there. And it was their very first time elk hunting. And, got them on some elk, and we just, since then, been really good friends and good hunting partners. I kind of hate them sometimes because they're young. They're like in their 30s, and, and they're like 6'2" and 6'4". And so when we're in the mountains, I threaten to shoot them in the leg all the time just because I can't keep up. So I turn 56 tomorrow. So so that tells you where that's at. So, but anyway, but I still pride myself on being able to still get out in the mountains and hike, and, backpack hunting's kind of my thing. And, I was doing that before it was cool, and so, Cam Haynes, I've seen him on mountains years before he ever became, the editor for Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal. And so, but that guy's taking it to a next level for sure. So, but, in all my years of doing all that, I was really lucky and blessed to get to guide some really cool people, out at Pikes Peak. We didn't have giant bulls out there, but we did have giant mule deer, and we owned a lot of property out in eastern Colorado. And so, I got to guide General Schwarzkopf. Actually got the opportunity to guide Ted Nugent for 2 days, which was kind of cool. Bill Winky, outdoor writer, so not like, some of those names are huge, but, but then I got to guide hundreds of just regular guys like us that, when they do encounter an animal like that, they're so appreciative. And, and being out west in that environment, it really changes people's lives and perspective on what we do. And so I was always one of these guys that never took it for granted where I was at. I remember my first time going out west and how that made me feel, and how free and all of that it was. And so anyway, I strive to encourage that when I guide, and still today when I talk about backpack bow hunting and all that, one of the things that I've always strived to do is to give back to the sport, because it's given me so much. I've met some of the best people in the world through the sport of archery, and lifelong friendships. And so I'm really blessed to have been able to do that. So. But I will tell you, we're talking about Aaron Snyder. Man, I love that guy to death, but I will tell you that he and I have almost come to blows a few times on an archery course shooting traditional. You know, you think these guys with compounds get serious, man. That guy gets serious about it. And usually when he walks into a tournament, I mean, I guess you got to kind of have a little bit of a cocky side to you if you're there to win. But man, he and I was always butt heads. We would always go head to head, and so we've had some pretty good battles out there. So and so seeing what he's become and what he's done today is, you know, it's just so cool to be able to say, hey, I knew you before all that, you know. So and to see how he's handled success and what he's doing with his company is pretty amazing right now. So, but yeah. So like I said, I've been really blessed.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had some pretty interesting hunts and you know, meeting some really cool people in the industry
Yeah.
yeah, I met Ted Nugent a couple of times. He kind of a nice guy, and you know, I haven't met too many of the other guys in there, but you know, I did meet him, and you know, that was nice. Got to talk to him a couple times, and you know, that's always nice when you can do that. But you know, like you said, you know, the regular guy is just so appreciative, you know, when you go out someplace like that and you've got a guy that can actually get to where you can see him.
Yeah.
You know, as an archer, it's like I may not be able to get the shot, but at least I can see him and we can get
Right.
something going. And you know, I know when I first started, you know, deer hunting, it was a good day if I see prints in the dirt.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. There's been a lot of hunts where I'm just glad to find a track. You're right.
Right.
So,
Well,
but,
and then when I started, there was you can only get two tags. That was it. You can only shoot two.
okay.
And they had just changed it because there was just one, you know,
Mhm.
and I don't remember the 50s or 60s when they went to two, but it was one and prior to that.
Right. Yeah.
And when I started, I'm a little bit older than you are. I'm probably about 15 years older than you are.
Okay.
Yeah. Here, a few more weeks I'll be turning 68. So
Oh, good for you.
yeah,
That's all.
I know it is like you get the young kids, they running up down the hills, and it's like, okay, wait a minute, slow down here. I'll keep up. You just got to slow down.
Yeah. With these
Yeah,
guys I hunt with, I'm like, hey, let's just pick a spot on the map. I'll see you when I get there. So
yeah,
just let them go, you know. So yeah. No,
yeah.
it's one of the things that's really, we were just talking about this the other night. I mean, the way things have changed over the last 20 years has just been amazing. And just gear alone. I mean, I remember when I would backpack hunt and my pack would weigh 60 pounds, which kept me from going deeper and deeper in the woods, you know. I mean, you know, tents weighed 6, 7, 8 pounds, sleeping bags weighed 5, 6 pounds. And, you know, now I don't even use a tent anymore. I use a hammock and a tarp. So, you know, and my sleeping bag weighs like, I don't know, maybe 2 pounds. And so, you know, all the gear and the evolution of hunting has just changed so much. And I think that's probably what bothers me most with what Colorado's trying to do, because, you know, there's still guys out there that haven't gotten out west to elk hunt. And of course, Colorado has always been the easiest place to do that. And now they're wanting to do a draw system. And oh my gosh, I don't even want to get into that. I mean, I wish Justin was here. If you ever wanted to talk points and draw systems and all that, Justin's the guy to talk to. And the guys at Elk 101 are amazing. Corey and Randy Newberg and them. I mean, they really know their stuff and what they're talking about when it comes to that. You know, when I was guiding a lot, we would go to all these shows back east, and you know, I would do all the elk calling contests. I've won a few of those, and you know, I've won a bunch of turkey calling contests, but you know, nothing to brag about really. But you know, getting to meet Corey when he was first starting out, Corey Jacobson, you know, and I mean, these guys are, you know, they're next level callers, and I'm one of those guys that, you know, if an elk bugles, I'm more of a how do I get to him than call him to me kind of guy. So, But it's been kind of cool. I've been real successful, and I've killed probably, oh gosh, I don't know, with a bow, and all I do is bow hunt. I don't gun hunt ever. I figured that by the time I get to where I can't pull a back a bow is when I'll start gun hunting. So, but now that they have crossbows out, you can start doing that. So, but and I have a love-hate relationship with those too. I don't know if that's bow hunting or not, but I do like the fact that it does put younger hunters in the field earlier. I guess that's probably one of the benefits to it, and it helps old guys, that can't pull back a bow anymore. So there's that benefit. But other than that, and the accuracy, I mean, there's probably less deer being lost to crossbows than back in the day. But I don't know. I just have a love-hate relationship with crossbows. I don't even know why, I guess. So, it's just easy to hate. So,
yeah. Well, I know when I had my store, that those that wanted to shoot a crossbow, they might have to bring their own target because
right,
the normal one I had may not stop. They may get buried, but my idea is a stick with a string flinging another stick is archery.
Yeah.
So does it fit in that category? It's archery. And
that's true. Yeah.
And like you did say, it's good for the younger kids. You can get out there and have good penetration, and less chance of losing them, or for the person that just doesn't have the time to get good.
That's true.
I'd rather them shoot a crossbow than not spend the time to get good enough to hit what they're shooting at. And
that's a great point.
I've seen that several times where, dude, why are you trying to shoot a 40-yard shot? You can't group 6 inches at 20.
That's right. You're right.
You need to listen to me. I'll teach you how to get better. But
yeah, exactly. That's one of the things too that kind of miffed me a little bit is you see some of these guys, the Levi Morgans, and I'm just going to name a couple. I'm not trying to name drop or anything but that. But what I'm trying to do is prove a point with accuracy. I mean, you got Tim Gillingham, you got Levi, you got Dan McCarthy and Chance Boboth. I have a really cool story about him. But, and I've been lucky enough to have done this long enough that I love shooting long distance stuff. And I filmed, and this has been years ago, but I filmed, we were hunting in a really neat area in Colorado for antelope. And I think to draw a rifle tag is like 19 years. It's that kind of place. But for an archery tag, it's like 8, I think. And so I've got this tag, and I've been hunting this giant buck for like a week and couldn't get him. And so at like 2:00 in the morning, I went and set up a blind in the middle of nowhere because he'd been coming across this little hill every morning. And so it was my last day to hunt. And he walks out there at like 104 yards. No wind. It was early morning, everything. And he was broadside, and I shoot him and we film it. And man, the blowback I got from that. It was like, oh my gosh, how unethical are you? And blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, he ran 50 yards, I want to say Gillingham shot a moose not too long ago at 100+ yards. You see Levi smoking deer or sheep or whatever at 80, 90 yards. The thing is just what you said. You got to take the time to become good and practice, and you got to trust your equipment. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I have some of the coolest sponsors ever. I mean, Matthews and Bowfinger and Vortex and Go Tilt. I've been with Go Tilt ever since Gillingham's been with, started all that. Q2Eyes is kind of a new one for me. They're a new vein company. They've been out a few years now, and they're putting out some really cool stuff. And I'm one of these guys that if it doesn't work, I don't need you as my sponsor just because I need a sponsor. And so a lot of my sponsors, I've been with for years and years and years. I was with Vortex when they first came out. So I know they get a lot of stuff going on, but they've always taken care of me. So, but, camouflage is another thing that's changed over the years. That's really just been a crazy conversion. I mean, I remember when, um, I mean, when I first started hunting, and I know it's for you, I mean, there was no such thing as camouflage. I mean, unless you found an uncle that had some old military stuff, you know. But man, when I think it was probably Realtree was the first one out, wasn't it? I think.
I think so. I remember
Yeah.
that the gray and what is
The
it?
tree
Kind of
bark.
a black, yeah, the tree bark one.
Yeah.
I've still got some of that camel around here someplace.
Yeah. You know, when that came out, man, I thought when I got some of that, I thought I was somebody then. You know, I was in high school, I think. So, but yeah, matter of fact, the guy that started ASAT, he's from my hometown in Dixon. So he's since sold the business to whoever has it now. But yeah, I mean, when his stuff came out, we're like, how in the heck is that supposed to work? You know, and apparently it's good stuff now. So, but anyway, so you're in Nebraska, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I need to come up there and take advantage of y'all's turkey season up there. So,
Yeah, we have some nice turkeys up here, and I've got a flock that I got to start monitoring. That's like a mile from my house just for the highway on the road out of the
nice.
little village I live in. Can't hunt that field that I see them in all the time, but I got to start tracking down where they're going and where they're coming from, because I can hunt across the road.
Yeah, yeah. I got you. Wow. No, I've been real fortunate when it comes to turkeys. I've slammed 3 times. I've done it. Obviously the first time with a shotgun, but the second time I did it with a compound bow, and then the last time I did it with a recurve. So, um, so I've been real fortunate to get to do that. So, but man, there's nothing harder in the world than hunting turkeys, you know, with a bow and not in a blind. You know,
Oh
that's
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible. So, but anybody wants a real challenge, there's your challenge right there, you know, and anybody can do it. So, you know, or anybody can go try to do it. And so it's
Right.
one of those things that, you know, you want a real challenge in your life, go turkey hunt with a bow. So, but it's the
Yeah.
hardest thing you'll ever do. So,
Well, when you think about how big is your target, you know, if you're going for a heart shot, how big is the
yeah.
heart? Maybe an
Oh,
inch?
I was gonna say 1.5 inches. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
So
So you got to be dead on, and you know that's why a lot of the guillotines come out, and the ones that the big wide cut ones, and then just go for the head or the neck, and that's a bigger target. You wouldn't think, oh, the neck's a little target. No, it's actually the biggest target.
I wish there was some way of percentage or have somebody call in like how many blinds have guillotines messed up? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I
Yeah.
will tell you, when those first came out, I was in a blind, and I mean, I had a turkey at like 5-10 yards, and wasn't paying any attention. And man, you're talking about ripped up a blind pretty good. That was pretty good. So, but you find that percentage out, you'd be doing something. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, when you look at it, it's the really short shots, your
oh
five
yeah,
yard shots, and your 5 and 7 feet shots, those real close ones. Very few people can actually make those shots because they don't know how to shoot them.
right.
And then when you're looking at it, because you think, oh, I had some guys, I was at a tournament, and it was up on a platform. There was a gator, like almost right down next to it, like you'd be in a raised
Yeah.
platform. He was actually out gator hunting. And there was, well, I'll just sight down the arrow. No, have you ever done it before? No, I'll just sight down the arrow. Yeah, well, that don't work.
No,
And I knew on my bow, that distance, because I had all the stuff laid out, so I knew exactly what range, how to shoot them.
like
And
60 yards.
well, I was my 70-yard pin
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
distance for it. And so I'm up on the platform, and I'm leaning over. I come up my form, because you don't drop your arm. That's not your form. So
Right.
bending
Yeah.
at the waist, bending at the waist, bending at the waist. And I'm bent over so far that I finally get my 70-yard pin on it. And then, then I go through and finish executing my shot, hit it right where I'm supposed to hit it. And now then I'm leaning over so far, I have to grab the pole and pull myself back up on the rail. because I was over so far I couldn't straight back up.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
but when you think about it, where's the arrow? The arrow's at your mouth,
Yep.
straight out from there. Where's your pins? Up by your eye. You know,
That's
it's good,
right.
you know, 3 inches higher or so, you know,
Yeah.
roughly there. So your pins are 3 inches higher than where your arrow is. So of course it's going to be shooting real low. And
Right.
then, yeah, you know, like everything else, it kind of rises up and then drops. It is like on a gun, the projectile, the bolt actually rises and then drops. So,
Right. Yeah.
you know, like with sighting in rifle, I go to the indoor range at 26 yards. I sight dead on it. And on my .6, I'm about at 2 inches
And
high at 100. I'm dead
I was
on
gonna say
200,
too.
about
Yeah.
3 inches, and about 3 inches lower 300. So I'm sighting at 26 yards. I'm dead on to 300.
Yeah.
For a deer within 3
Yeah.
inches of where you're hitting,
Yeah.
that's nothing. Have the same thing in archery, except it's like closer ranges.
Right.
I found on a lot of my bows, my 20-yard pin is about an inch off at 10 yards.
Off how?
It's just off about an inch. So I just
Oh,
have to hold off just about an inch if I want to hit dead on at 10.
oh, I got you. Oh, at 10. Yeah. Okay. I got
Yeah,
you.
at
Yeah.
10, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
now then at 20, I'm dead on. And then so there's no reason on my bows to put a 10-yard pin because it's
Right.
fast enough that I don't need to worry about it.
Right.
Now, if I was shooting 50 pounds or 45 pounds, yeah, then you might need a 10-yard and 20-yard, 15 and
That's
on.
like that big buck I killed last year in Kentucky. It was right in the middle of the rut. And I mean, there was bucks running everywhere. And the one that I kind of a target buck, he kind of got in the woods and I grunted and he came and he ran and he stopped 3 yards from the tree I was sitting in. And I mean, clear shot and it's straight down. And I'm like, I'm not sitting there doing the conversions in my head. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to shoot my 60-yard pin and so boom, and of course it worked out. But, it's funny. So you was talking about Chance Bobo for a little while ago. So he and I kind of grew up around here. He's a lot younger than I am, but back when he was starting to shoot in the pro class and stuff, we would always see each other at tournaments and whatnot. And, and then of course the ASA happened and we've always been friends. And so he was married to Emily McCarthy, but he and Emily were married at the time. And he calls me out in Colorado and goes, "Hey man, I drew a deer tag. Me and Emily both drew it." He goes, "I'm gonna grab a deer tag or elk tag." I'm like, "All right." So we go up and we're hunting, above timberline for 4, 5, 6 days, and so we were on one particular buck. We just never did get him, and so here's the funny part. He goes, "Hey man, can I come deer and elk hunting?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So if you called me and said, "Hey, I'm coming," I'm thinking a week, 10 days. This dude was at my house for 28 days. Like,
Oh,
it's like, yeah. And so, I mean, most of the time we were out, we were spike camping and doing all that. So after about 5 or 6 days at 13,000 feet, we go back to my place and, kind of regroup and refuel and all that. So the next day we're going to go elk hunting. And it was the funniest thing. We go elk hunting and there's one particular place that I go and you hike in about 1.5 miles, 2 miles. And when you get to this bench, it overlooks this huge valley. And so I'd like to be there right when the sun's coming up. And of course, everybody sees the videos and watches all the TV shows. And they're thinking you got to do these locator calls and all that. And so we're sitting up there and we're watching the sun come up and we're at 12,000 feet. And so Chance is like, "Hey man, you gonna bugle?" I'm like, "No." "Why not?" I said, "Because I don't have to." So 5 minutes goes by. "Dude, you're supposed to bugle right now." And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Just give it." I said, "When the sun comes up, they'll do their own thing. That way they don't know where we're at." So this happened 3 or 4 times. He's getting kind of frustrated because we're not elk hunting,
Right.
And so the sun comes up and sure enough, like 5 or 6 bulls pop off, and 2 of them are really close. And so I'm like, "Hey, just stay with me. I know where there's a trail. I know right where these bulls are at." And there was this big avalanche area and we get on the trail and and we slide in there to like 60 yards. And of course, chances, I don't know what, 6'2", maybe 6'3", and I'm not. I'm like 5'9", 5'10". And so I'm like, there he is, man. I see he's kind of downhill, 61 yards. Do it. And, they were pretty good bulls. They're 300-inch bulls. And he pulls back, and it was all surreal. It was like, here I am guiding one of the world's best archers in the world, in my backyard. And we had a little different connection because we're friends. And he shoots, and man, he shoots right underneath this bull. Of course, he was with PSE back then. I've never seen him get mad ever in my life. He takes the bow and like tosses it, and we're on this incline, and it's not like a 5 or 10 yard toss. It's like a 50-yard toss. It's like going down the mountain. Of course, Emily's laughing. I'm kind of laughing. So we go on and we hunt the rest of the day. Well, at that particular place, we can go home every night. So I get home, and my ex-wife at the time, everybody at that point, I think Chance had won Vegas maybe 3 times. And so anyway, we walk in the door, and everybody's like, hey, did you get one? And Emily goes, Chance missed one at 61 yards today. And my ex-wife goes, well, if you'd have put an X on his ass, he'd have hit it. So I never let him let that down, ever. I never let him live that down. So, but he's gone on to kill some giant bulls and bucks. That guy consistently kills giant bucks every year. So he still won't tell me where he's hunting in Indiana. So he's always taking giants out of there. So, but anyway, yeah.
Got a good spot. Don't let anybody know.
Yeah, well, I think he's using a guide service, but I'm not sure which one he's using. So I'm not going to promote it because I hadn't been there. So I have to still hunt public land in Indiana. But anywho, so what else you want to know?
You got quite a story of your archery journey. It's amazing what you've done and
out of all of that, all my, I guess we can call them successes, but when my daughter was growing up, she wasn't very athletic, and I got her started shooting really young, like 4 or 5 years old. And by the time she was 8 or 9, she wasn't into sports or any of that. And we lived in a small little mountain town, and I will give a shout out to it's called the Ski and Bow Rack in Pagosa Springs. And if you've ever hunted the San Juans down there, everybody knows where that place is. And it only has 6 lanes. It's a small, when the snow starts falling, it stops being a hunting store, becomes a ski store. You rent skis and snowboards and stuff like that there. But so when she was about 8, a couple of her little friends wanted to learn archery. And so, I started on like Tuesday nights, and I started with 5 or 6 kids, and that was, so she was 2000, so like 2010 maybe I started doing that. Well, in 2012 I probably had 40 kids in that program, and by the time when I left in 2015, we had almost 100 kids in the program, and it went from Tuesday nights to where Monday nights was beginners, Tuesday night was advanced shooters, and then on Wednesday or Thursday nights, my advanced shooters helped the up and coming shooters, and so anytime we would go to a 3D shoot or whatever, we looked like a carnival coming to town. It was hilarious. But getting to take those kids to, I would always take 5 or 6 kids every year to Vegas, and doing that was probably one of the most rewarding things, to watch them kids shoot. Vegas always tears me up. You want the real pressure in the world, go to Vegas. I would rather have the new world record bull standing in front of me at 60 yards than, the final day at Vegas. That just something about that. But watching those kids with ice in their veins doing that, and the first year we ever did it, out of the 6 kids, I want to say 4 of them placed. You know, I
That's
think my
good.
daughter ended up second that year, and so that's between doing that, and you know, a lot of those kids still reach out to me today. They're, you know, some of them are even doctors now, you know, and have grown and started families and doing their thing. And you know, it's really nice to have them reach out every now and again. And but probably the one big thing that I've taken out of archery is all the friendships and all the people that I've been able to introduce to the sport. You know, it's just, there's nothing like it. There's nothing else like it in the world. There's just not, I mean, you know, when you're shooting tournaments, that's a little different, but the camaraderie, even, you know, I shoot in the senior pro class, and, you know, the camaraderie there is still just as strong today as it was, you know, 25 years ago, or even longer. But, you know, getting to help new people and get started on their journey in archery. And one of the things, anybody that I help that's like brand new, you know, I'll loan equipment, or I'll, you know, help them set up stuff and all that. And everybody's like, hey, what can I pay you? Or what can I do for you? And all that. And my go-to on that every time is just pay it forward. You know, if you see a kid that needs something, give it to him, you know, let them do it. So, because, you know, I think archery right now is probably in one of the strongest places it's ever been, I think. I mean, according to licenses and social media and all that. I mean, what do you think about that?
No, archery is definitely making a good, strong presence. You know, you see a lot of the stuff on TikTok, you know, people shooting their bows and you know, just everything else. I think it's starting to be pretty good, and with archery in schools is, you know, picking up pretty
Right.
good and growing, and you know, it's been growing for, you know, quite a while. And you know, that's something that, you know, that's just get them introduced in it. I know I had some archery classes I took when I was in school, and you know, that's
Okay.
it's always
Probably 4-H, right?
yeah, well, it was a little after that. I
Okay. All
was a
right.
little bit older.
Okay.
Can't remember if I was in high school or college. It kind of all
Okay.
blurs together, you know, now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been too many years, but I remember shooting in school, and with my brother. He got the first compound. He got the bear whitetail too,
No. Okay. Yeah.
and that's the first compound I shot in the '70s. But I started in the '60s with a Ben Pearson fiberglass recurve bow.
Me too,
You know,
man. Me too. So
25 pounds.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was 45. I was probably only pulling about 20, but it was 45. So, but you remember the first deer you killed? Did you kill a deer with that?
No, I didn't. It was later, when I got my own compound bow. Um, you know, the first time I had a shot at a deer, you know, being up in a tree stand, and there was kind of brush there, and I didn't really know, yeah, how to shoot them or anything, or where to shoot them. And it's like,
Right.
it was a perfect shot, but I didn't know that I could shoot that shot. I didn't see all the deer.
Yeah.
I did see the vitals, but you know, not knowing. And you know, that was the first deer I seen. And then the first deer I shot was um I was at a public land. I was 20 feet up in the tree on the tree stand, and I had to get that high to get over the brush there to get to the trail, which is about 40 yards away.
Yeah.
And I'm shooting 52 pounds, a full length 2117 arrow with 145 grain broadhead on it, Muzzy
Yeah.
broadhead.
Yeah.
And I shot, and you know, 52 pounds, when that deer turned, I seen the arrow almost all the way through. I think the fletching stopped it from coming out. So here's
Yeah.
this arrow sticking out as it run off, and I watched where it run. And then of course, the tall grass, yeah, I knew where it went to. I could have went there, but I want to track it, you know, get practice
Right.
tracking,
Yeah.
because I never tracked a deer. I had never shot one. You know, so
Yeah.
I followed,
Yeah.
tracked it, and got to it. And a buddy of mine, he just went down there. They had mowed a little strip. Well, the deer run through the grass, and he found it, but I wanted to track to it and find it.
Cool. That's so
And,
cool.
you know, that was the first one, and you know, not a big buck, but hey, it was a
My
deer.
my first was with that old Ben Ben Pearson, and I think I was 11, and like I said, there wasn't tree stands back then, so you had to build tree stands and stuff. And somebody had built an old tree stand by a cornfield, and so my dad's like, "Look, go down the edge of the cornfield. You'll see the tree stand. Get up in it." And he goes, "A little bit before dark, just come right back down the edge of the cornfield." Well, I wasn't real comfortable in the dark, so I got down probably a little earlier than I'm supposed to, and I've got an arrow nocked, and I'm shooting like gosh, probably like an old double X 75 or something, or
Yeah.
maybe pre that even. And I had a 2-blade Fred Bear blade on there, and I heard this coming out of the woods to the corn, and this doe walks out at like 10 yards and turns and faces me, and I'm shaking so bad, and I'd kind of snapshot her, and so I was aiming at the front of her, and when I shot, she ducked, and it hit her in the top of the head.
Oh.
And she dropped like a bag of potatoes. It just dropped, scared the snot out of me. Like, because I'd never shot anything, I didn't know what was supposed to happen. So I'm yelling across this cornfield into my dad. I'm like, "Dad," and he's like, "What?" I said, "I got one." And Dad caught it. I'll never forget. He's like, "Bull," out loud. And I said, "No, I got one." And so neither one of us had ever killed a deer. So he comes over and pulls out his knife, cuts the throat, because that's what you're supposed to do. And we mangled that deer, bless its heart. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if we got any edible meat out of it, but we mangled it pretty good. But that was my first experience. And, it wasn't until I got out of the Army that, the whole buck fever thing. I used to get that so bad. Oh my gosh. And then once I was in the military and did all that, I get excited after the shot now. It's during the shot, I get mad at them now for all the money I've spent trying to kill them. So,
Yeah.
so I just get mad at them, and then I get excited after I shoot them. So, but anyway, but yeah, no, I've been very blessed. I've been very fortunate, and with all the people that's come in and out of my life through archery is just been amazing. So, I don't think I would have wanted it any other way, really. So, still out there plugging away at it, even at my age. So,
Yeah.
I can tell you the eyes aren't what they used to be. So,
Oh no. Yeah.
especially shooting a scope.
Yeah, that's where the long shots. Yeah, I'm not making long shots because I can't see the target.
Yeah, no, I definitely got to have a scope on if I'm doing long stuff. So, but and I'll be honest with you, the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, like especially if I'm out west mule deer hunting in the high country, I'll throw on like a 2 or 4 power lens. It's a pain in the butt to keep them clean for 7, 8, 10 days. But then when I'm around here deer hunting, I don't even use a lens most of the time. So, but shooting tournaments, the older I get, of course your eyes go weird. Here's these guys, these young pros, they're not even shooting. Some of them don't even shoot lenses, and if they do, it's like a 2 power or whatever. And, here I am trying to figure out how to make an 8 power lens work, the 3D. The whole thing looks like this,
Yeah.
So, because I'm just trying to see anything. But it's the last few years have been a challenge, but it's been fun. So, with all the guys and everything, I just still enjoy getting out there and mixing it up with them. So, the only time you want me to shoot with you apparently is on Fridays when they shoot the team shoots. I do pretty good at that for some reason. So, and I shoot real good on Saturdays, but Sundays always, I don't know, it's a mental thing, I guess. So, always something on Sunday.
Yeah.
Guess I'm trying to get home.
Well, archery is definitely a mental game in
Yeah.
how you're focused and your attention, and there's so many things that can go wrong in your shot process, and a lot of it starts right here
Oh,
in the head.
you're exactly right.
You take yourself out of the game, and that's where there's some people that have gotten that down where they're just focused on one thing. And I found when I'm out shooting, if I'm thinking anything else while I'm shooting, I can't even hit the backstop hardly,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I'm
No, I'm
not
with you on that.
I'm not thinking about it. And that's one of the things. I've been teaching archery since '95, so I've
Right.
taught a lot of people how to shoot. And that's something. It's completely different game when you're trying to teach somebody how to shoot. And I did martial arts for over 20 years, and I was
Yeah.
doing that when I learned the back tension release, the current way of shooting. And I
Right.
kind of merged them in together to get a little bit different, because I teach slightly different, the stance a little bit different. I teach more of a closed stance.
Yeah.
And I teach, the hand when you shoot should go straight to your target.
Right.
If you're off at an angle, when you shoot, your hand wants to go out. You
Right.
can't be consistent. So I teach to go straight to the target,
That makes sense.
as you do it. And, when, just like, in martial arts, you're breaking a board. If you don't go straight at that board and go through it, you're going to hurt your hand,
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
you're hitting it with,
Right.
where if you go straight through it, you focus not at the board, but beyond the board. That's where, in archery, you want to focus on the target, not the pin. The
Right.
pin's going to move. Who
Right.
cares what the pin's doing? You just want to
Yeah.
focus on where you want it to go. And,
Yeah.
a lot of visualization, and it's all just kind of a mindset. And
When I'm out doing seminars and stuff, most of the time these guys will want me to talk about backpack bow hunting, because I've been doing that since the early '90s. And and people go, so what's the number one thing that'll take you out of a hunt when you're in a wilderness area, or or up in the mountains, or doing whatever for more than 3 or 4 days? And I tell them all the time, it's mental. 9 times out of 10, if there's anything going wrong in your life, if your finances, your wife, your job, or any of those things aren't right, when you're on an 8-day hunt somewhere and it's just you and your backpack, the first 2 or 3 days you're on an adventure. It's fun. Everything's new, and you're hunting and you're doing all that. But when day 4 runs around, and now you're you're hungry, and you may not be seeing the animals you're looking for. And I tell people all the time, when you're hunting with a group, you've got other guys there to keep you interested in what's going on. But when you're by yourself, and people might go, well, if you're talking to yourself, you're crazy. Well, you're always talking to yourself, always.
right.
And so when you're on the side of a mountain and that little voice in your head starts talking to you, yourself is not going to lie to yourself. You can't,
Right.
you can't tell yourself a lie, because you're telling yourself a lie. And so, it's a total mental game. And so, by day 4 or 5, if you're not mentally ready for what's about to happen, then you start thinking about cheeseburgers and pizza, and, a good cold beer would be good, And so, that, and any other problems you might be having, that takes you out of the game immediately. And it's the same for archery. I mean, if you're in a tournament situation, everything at that time has to be mentally correct. You can't have any side thoughts going on. And I think, I tell people all the time, these guys that are best in the world, they're either they either have prepared so well that they know everything that they need to know, or they're brain dead. I mean, they just don't think of nothing, and they go do their thing. And so, I've never, I wished I was more brain dead, but I think too much when I shoot tournaments. So I do. And that's probably my biggest downfall when it comes to shooting, the big stuff. But when it comes to shooting animals, it's not a problem. It's just something about them 12 rings just eat me up. So, but anyway, So, and I think that's why I was so successful shooting a recurve, because you don't have all those, those 5 other things you're thinking about, you're just looking down the arrow and getting with it. So, you're kind of wanting to hit this area at 30 yards, but, the probability is not as good as when you got a 6-power scope on there and you're looking at it,
Right.
So, and everything has to go off right. So, but yeah, but no, my career, I've gotten to the point now where I've killed about everything I've wanted to kill. There's still a few hunts out there. I think Justin and I are thinking maybe a moose hunt in 2024 up in Alaska. I want to go to the Yukon really bad. So, and we're thinking about doing one of those 10-day float trips. And, at 57, 58 years old, that might be one of the last of those I get to do. Because I know my days are numbered in the mountains. I get that. This past hunt in Colorado, man, I mean, things hurt a lot, especially legs and backs. So,
Yeah.
but so, I try to stay in pretty good shape and, and exercise regular and try to eat right and all that. But, there comes a time where, you got more days behind you than you do in front of you. And,
Right.
and when it comes to hunting out west and doing that sort of stuff, it's even fewer days in front of you. So, but I may have to break down and buy horses. So.
Well, that's one way of doing it.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, but no, just enjoying life down here in Tennessee and, doing a lot of deer hunting, when I'm not elk hunting and bear hunting and stuff. And, love being back down south and got, just honestly, you could probably shoot 2 or 3 tournaments a weekend locally if you wanted to. And being down here in Nashville, we've had maybe 1 or 2 snowstorms all year that lasted 3 days. So, I mean, for the most part, you can go shoot just about any weekend you want to, which is a big plus. So,
Yeah. It's a little tough shooting tournaments this time of year up here in Nebraska because today we're in single digits.
Nice. Yeah.
with the wind chills in single digits, but below 0.
Wow. You probably see a vapor trail with an arrow.
Well, and then too, when it's that cold, your limbs are a little stiffer. So now you're actually pulling a little bit more weight.
Mm-hmm.
Your arrows are stiffer, because they're cold, especially been out there for a while. And then you have to worry about your vanes or your feathers. I always shoot feathers. I've just never switched to vanes.
Nice.
For me, I shoot 4-inch feathers, and no matter what I shoot, that's what I shoot. And then not only that, but you're cold,
right?
You're a little stiff, and
I will tell you, I won't know how that feels because I'm not going to shoot in the kind of weather you're in. Just not going to do it.
Yeah, my back stuff's outside, and I'm not going to shoot it right now.
Yeah, no, I get it. So, well, yeah, I mean that's about me in a nutshell. If I could say anything, I've just been very blessed. So, but and if there's anybody out there, look me up on, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all them places, got a few things on YouTube, not many. The one that I get the most talk about is my fire truck shot. I guess probably back in 2010 or 12 or somewhere in there. I was in Pagosa Springs and the county got a new fire truck with a 100-foot ladder on it. And I had the Hoyt rep there and I had a booth at the county fair and the Hoyt rep was there. We're trying to, do stuff with the youth archery program. And I went over to the fire chief and I'm like, hey man, what's the chances of letting me go up on top of that ladder and shoot one of them targets? And he goes, how far is the target? And I said, 104 or 5 yards. And he goes, can you do that? I said, yeah, I think so. And he goes, I can put you up to 80 feet if you can get the fairgrounds to say you can do it. So I went and talked to him. I said, hey, do you care if I try this? And they're like, well, what are we going to do with everybody? I said, just make a lane. And so if you watch the video, it's pretty cool. I was up about 80, 85 feet and shot like 104 yards. And the rep from Hoyt was there, and he's kind of an older guy. After my second arrow, he goes, you might want to stop there, Jeff. He goes, of course I couldn't hear him. And so that's probably the one everybody talks about is the fire truck shot. So, but I've not killed many animals off of the top of a fire truck. So.
No. So did you hit the target then?
I did. There was a deer target and a javelina target. Now I want to say I put 4 or 5 arrows. I had 5 arrows, I think, and put them all in it. So, and actually, I think 4 of them are in the scoring ring. So, maybe a high 8. I don't know. So. Yeah, not too bad. But I was shooting a 6-power scope, so I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. So but I had a harness on. So if you do watch the video, the harness makes me look much fatter than I really am.
Oh. Yeah, up that high, yeah. You're gonna make you put a harness on.
Yeah. So no, that was kind of fun. And on YouTube, I turkey hunting has always been my first passion. I grew up doing it and love it. And, it's basically elk hunting. It is, but it's a bird, and, so there's a lot of like turkey misses up there. Cause I think people need to see that too. There's a lot of good footage of, high country mule deer and some, I've been fortunate to kill some giant black bears out west, and that's kind of one of my things I like to do. Is I love to bear hunt, of course, mule deer hunt and elk hunt, and then when whitetail season rolls around, I've got a couple farms up in Kentucky, and I've got one here in Tennessee that I get to hunt, and so I like trying to grow deer, and I grew up with Spook Span and Spook Nation and all that, and so he's the same way. He grows some giant deer, and so I try to cheat off of him and learn what he's doing. So, but yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. Now, I mean, this year, I want to say Justin and I'm not sure. I have to look it up, but we either have 4 or 6 mule deer points for down there around Pagosa Springs, and in Colorado, that's one of the big units to go kill giant mule deer. And that's a hard hunt. It's tough. It's, you're a little over 13,000 feet. You're above timberline, and it's just if we draw that this year, then I'll definitely, that'll probably be one of the last times I get to do that, just because stuff hurts right now.
Yeah.
Backs and knees and joints, and that hike up to that 13,000 feet. It's 3 or 4 4,000 vertical feet. And I mean, it's going to take me 5 or 6 hours to get up there. So, and then once you're there, you're there. But we've also agreed that if we don't draw that tag this year, then we're going to, unless they change it, we're going to do a over-the-counter elk hunt somewhere on the eastern side of Colorado, over there where I used to guide. I kind of miss going over there. So, and then, and then, try to maybe get in a Kansas or Oklahoma hunt for deer. And we might apply for that whitetail tag out in eastern Colorado. That is a place where that is a hidden gem. I mean, there is some giant whitetails roaming around, and it's almost 100% draw. And, but you kind of really have to know where to go, because there's not a lot of public land out there. And so you really got to do your homework and, Google scout it and do all that kind of mess. But it's really a hidden gem. I mean, I've got some YouTube videos on there. I mean, I've seen 206, 8, inch bucks out there running around, and it's just wide open spaces, and it's a tough hunt. But, if you can get in the right place at the right time, then, it's a great hunt. So, and then of course, you got tons of antelope and mule deer running around, but the whitetails out there are just a different breed. And so it's a really good hunt too. So, but yeah.
Lot of good hunting around and a lot of deer, as turn of the century, they didn't ever figure whitetail would be a viable game animal. And
I
now look
know.
at it. There's so many that were, they're getting diseases because there's so many. And
Right. Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. I mean, I think here in Tennessee, you can kill 3 bucks and you can kill 3 does a day. So I did the numbers. It's over 300. You can kill 300 deer a year. So if you wanted to do that. So I have no desire to shoot that many deer. So
no,
but
the hauling out and the field dressing and then
oh my
cleaning them
gosh.
up and
Yeah.
and then I always process my own just because I'm cheap and I want to make sure I get my meat back.
Right. Yeah.
You take them to a thing and one of the butchers, and you don't even know if you get your own meat back. And
Right. Yeah.
I had one guy who's took in a huge like 300-pound, over 300 pounds, and another buddy of mine took a little bit more normal, 150, 180 pound deer, and they went to pick up their deer, and they both got the same amount of meat back.
Oh, that's not good.
I know. I guess. Wait a minute. I brought in over a 300-pound deer, so they went and grabbed some more meat.
Wow. Yeah, I do a lot of my own stuff. I have a butcher that I use up in Kentucky, actually. And so what I'll do is the stuff I want into hamburger, I'll just take him that meat. It's already weighed, and he makes this special hamburger for me. That's pretty cool. But other than that, everything else, I pretty much do my own stuff. So, because I'm the same way. I don't really want anybody else messing with it. So,
well, and I've been in some of those places too. You go in and look at it. Some of these deer hangings, but during rifle season, there's lots and lots of them in. They're just packed full hanging there, and you look at some of these, and okay, this meat's not only real dark, but it's also a little green. And then that all gets mixed in with everything else, and then when they grind, they're going to grind everybody's all up. They're going to give you back, if you've got 5 pounds of ground, they're going to grind it. Bring off, fine, give you 5 pounds, and and you can always tell the difference between the way they smell and the way they taste when they process it into ground is when I do it, because I take out all the fat, all the membrane, so I have pure meat in there, where theirs has got the fat mixed in with it. And as you know, you don't eat deer fat.
Right. No.
No, it doesn't smell good or taste good when you have it in there. So you want to get all that fat out of there. And
I bet it's been probably, gosh, I don't want to lie to you, but I bet it's been 10 or 15 years since I've bought meat at a grocery store. I mean, all I eat is deer, elk, that the only thing I'll buy I'll buy some pork and chicken. That's about it. So everything else is wild game. So, but no, I feel I'm the same way as you are on that. I don't want anybody messing with it. So, and what's cool is, by doing that, you also learn so much about how you're shooting the animal, and the best field care, and deer taste different that you've had to let lay for a day or so than the ones that you watch drop.
Right.
So being able to prepare it like that's always something. That's the thing about elk hunting. When you kill an elk up in the mountains, that for me, I mean, it don't get any better than elk meat. And so, taking care of that meat is always priority for me. I mean, that's the most important. You can have my whole entire camp as long as I get all the meat out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so that, I mean, taking the meat out is for me and preparing it and doing right by it is probably my number one goal. So after I get one down, because you just
ever
don't
have moose?
I have, yeah. Moose is really good. So
yeah,
it's the best. So
yeah, I went up Canada and got a moose, and man, it was so good.
yeah. hopefully in 2024, I'll know what that feels like. So, and I don't even need to go kill some giant new world record. Just a good representative would be good with me. So, as long as we can go in there and kill one and not get eaten by a grizzly, that'll be a good week for me.
Right.
So I've had a lot of crazy bear encounters, and I've always said that's probably how I'll go out, getting eaten by a bear. So, because I don't know, they seem to like me a lot. I don't know. So seems like everywhere I go, there's always bears around. So, and I've gotten kind of used to how they operate and how they act and how they should act. I mean, this place that we hunted last time in Colorado, you have to go through this little valley to get up to where we want to hunt. And there's I don't want to use the word river. It's more like a large creek, but goes through there, and there's raspberries everywhere. And as you're hiking through there was literally 2 or 3 bears just sitting in the middle of these raspberries like they were at the movies eating popcorn, and we're coming through there with packs and making noise. They don't even move. They're having such a good time. They're just doing their thing. And, and so when you do kill an elk up there and you got to come back through there, you're like, okay, are they going to give up the raspberries for the elk meat that you have on your back? So you always got to be, pretty conscious of what's going on out there doing that too. So, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't have bears here in Nebraska, so
yeah,
we don't have to worry about that. We do have lions.
We only have them in East Tennessee. We don't have them where I'm at, but we have them in East Tennessee. They're small though. You can slap them bears around a little bit. So.
Yeah, I don't think I'd slap a bear.
Yeah.
Unless it's a stuffed one.
Yeah. I got a YouTube video on there of me chasing one up a tree. So out in Colorado. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. As long as you don't get them cornered, right?
That's right. Leave mama alone, you'll be all right. So
right.
Yep.
Yeah. Leave them alone. They're a big animal, and
that's it.
Unless you give them a reason to attack you.
Now, are you up there where you're at? Are they doing that TAC tournament up there at Total Archery Challenge? Aren't they doing one of those up there by you?
I haven't kept up with that. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Okay. Oh man, me and Justin Walski went to one a couple years ago over in East Tennessee. Right, it's kind of in the hill country before you get in the mountains, and man, you want a challenge? Go shoot one of those. Holy cow! Like each range is like 4 miles, and you gain and lose like, I want to say we gained and lost maybe 1,500 feet in elevation. Like it's just up and down all day long, and you're shooting targets from bobwhite quail at 20 yards to Sasquatches at 140 yards. I mean, you shoot, I think it's 50 targets, and they have 3 or 4 ranges, and they have like this whole village thing going on. And boy, did I had a great time doing that. I know the one out west they do in Utah. That's always a good one too. So, but I thought I saw where they were coming up there by you guys. But if they do, you should go. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. So a lot of work too.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out and see. There's so many things in archery going on between ISO, the ATA and all the different organizations and NASP, and there's just so many things going on. It's hard to keep track of all of them. And
it is.
That's what's nice about, each person has their own thing to deal with it. So I can kind of learn from all you guys as well.
Yeah. No, I that's why I said earlier, I think archery's in a good place. I really do. I think where it's going is a good thing. And, I'm really proud that I've had the opportunities I've had and the friendships that I've met through it. And, some of the experiences that I've gotten to have. like I said earlier, I've been really blessed to be able to do all that. So, and, at this point in my life, it's all about giving back. And so I try to do that as much as I can now. So, keep plugging away until I can't plug away anymore. So,
Right. No, that's all we can do.
That's it.
Yeah.
So,
Just keep going. And,
yeah.
and that's why, I started this podcast a little over a year ago, and,
Yep.
I called it Archery Talk 101 because I wanted to help new archers that don't know what's going on. I started out, it's like, what do you need to know before you even go to the archery store?
Right.
And then what do you need to know once you get there? And, so that somebody that's looking at archery don't get sucked into, some of the store owners like, okay, well, you need this, you need this, you need this. And by the time they get done, they're walking out with $2,000 on their bow.
Yeah.
And, beginner don't need that.
No,
You're
right.
When I had my store, the PSE, I was a PSE dealer.
Yeah.
And the PSE Nova was like a $350 set.
Yeah.
And, you could buy them from Walmart, stuff like that, but theirs a little bit cheaper. But theirs included a bow with the rest, the sight, and that was it.
Yeah.
Well, to not compete with Walmart, I also included half dozen arrows, a release, string silencers, a peep, and shooting instruction.
Yeah.
Could be an archery instructor, I'm going to teach them how to shoot. I'm going to get them in this bow for about $350, maybe $400 back then. Now it's probably about $600-700 to get started, but
it's hard to walk out of there under $1,000 anymore.
Right.
Even with lesser equipment.
Yeah, but you got to remember that was 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
So you can get by a little bit cheaper, and and then like on a stabilizer, here's a cheap stabilizer, here's a bit more, here's a real expensive one. We'd put them on, try. It's like, can you tell the difference? Nope, buy the cheap one then.
Yeah.
Don't spend the extra money. Now later, once you've shot for a while, you'll be able to tell the difference. Now then, not only that, but that allowed them to get in cheaper till they could get going, know what they needed. They can upgrade their sight, they can upgrade their rest, they can upgrade pieces at a time. When they upgrade the bow, just move them all over. And if I sold you the high-end one, I'm going to sell you one bow in your lifetime. I'm probably not going to sell you another one. If I sell you the low-end one, you stay in the sport, I'm going to sell you another bow.
Right.
I'm going to sell you more accessories. Yeah, or two.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
And then I went through, and I didn't have any fletched arrows. There was all custom ordered. I just bought raw shafts. And you want vanes, you want feathers. You want 4-inch or 5-inch feathers, you want 3 or 4-inch vanes. Then they didn't have all these little fancy vanes they have out now.
Yeah.
And what colors you want. You pick your colors. That way every archer can have their own color scheme. Now, when I worked at Bass Pro and Cabela's, you buy a box of a dozen arrows. They cut and glue the inserts in. You don't get to pick what vanes you want.
Right.
You don't get to pick which colors. You can't pick a different color. You can't pick a different knock. You can't pick nothing. And now I made them all custom.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's funny to go to these tournaments, and especially with the young ladies out there. Like, when I say young ladies, I'm talking like from 12 years old to 35, or even 50. The 50-year-old women are doing it too. I mean, it's like going to a dead-gum fashion show. I mean, the pants, the shoes, the shirt, the hat, all match the bow. They have the bow with the bling on it, and this and this. And I'm like, good gracious. I like, it's like buying a new car almost. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch everybody. I mean, and I'm guilty of it too. I mean, some of your listeners may or may not know this, but in 2018 in Kentucky, we had a school shooting there, and my daughter was shot twice. The anniversary, the 5-year anniversary, was just the 23rd. And so that year that happened, the little girl that passed away was my daughter's best friend in that shooting. And like I said, my daughter was shot twice. Their favorite colors were purple and pink. And so for the next 2 years, that's all I shot was purple and pink, fletches. Of course, you get all these guys talking snot to you, and oh, you're this, you're that, da 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 da. And then when you tell them, why you're doing it, boy, that makes them feel about that tall.
Right.
So, so you're like, there, have that one. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's really amazing what you can do with all that. I mean, like the sights now, you can put different colored, rings in there to match your bow, and I've always been guilty of the fletching thing, to match everything else going on. So I can't lie about that, but yeah, it's funny. So yeah, I mean, you talking about just in the last 10, 15 years, this whole archery game has just been revolutionized. It's just crazy, and I mean, it just keeps getting faster and faster and faster. And it's like, when does it stop? Like, how much can y'all reinvent, from one year to the next? Because, used to a manufacturer would come out with, whatever bow, and that was the bow for like 2 years, 3
Right.
years. And now it's like, seems like there's a new bow every 6 months. They're like telephones. So it's like,
Right.
so it's kind of weird to me, really, but I don't know. I'm just one of those guys that I'm pretty old school. I don't get caught up in all the. I mean, the one thing that I do get caught up in is when I build my own arrows, and so all the way from cutting them to weighing them, and I mean, all my target arrows are down within half a grain of each other. So especially my indoor arrows, but so I do enjoy doing that. But other than that, everything else is I keep it really simple. So because I'm not that smart, so I don't have time to sit around and think of all the everything that has to happen. So, but I'm not a Tim Gillingham for sure. That's for sure. So, but anyway, what we ought to do is, like in August, call me or reach out to me, and any of these guys are about ready to go out west for the first time, or who haven't been successful out there. We could definitely talk about gearing up for that.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. I'd love to do that with you. So
Yeah. How to prepare for a trip out west. Come closer to the season, that that sounds like something they'd be definitely interested in, is
yeah.
how do you prepare for it? And
Yeah. When I do these seminars at, for the Fall Classic and some of these other places around here, that's basically what I talk about, is bow hunting elk out west and mule deer and all that. And because it's a different game, than if these guys coming from back east. And I used to tell people all the time, you bring me Michael Jordan, when he was in his prime. I'm like, you bring me Michael Jordan to Colorado, and I'm going to kick his butt the first 2 days. But once he catches his breath, then it's a new game. So,
right.
but, yeah. So, yeah, would love to do something like that.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Okay.
Right. We offer a lot of good stuff like that in the group. So for those that are with us so far, just remember, if you go out to Facebook, the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group, that's a group I have set up for helping archers out. A lot of good information out there. You won't have to worry about being advertised to, because I don't allow links in the group. So it's just all pure helping you out. And you can ask questions. You can even upload a video, and we'll give you a shout out to what we think you can help you with. I'll leave a link in the description, as well as those that are interested in archery coaching. I'll leave a link to a form you can fill out, get a free 15-minute consultation, see if coaching might be for you. That's kind of a little bit of my advertisement here. And it's been great talking with you today. And you have any parting thoughts?
Man, I think you're doing an amazing job. Keep it up. For anybody out there that's an old guy like us, my biggest thing is just keep passing it forward. the sport don't grow unless we get the young people involved. So that's kind of always been my motto. And no, I'm proud of the work you're doing, and just keep it up. And if anybody needs to reach out to me, like I said, I'm on Facebook or Instagram, and just shoot me a message, and I'll be glad to help you in any way I can. So,
All right. It's
all
been
right.
great having you on the show. Looking forward to more of these, especially, come closer to hunting season, how to
Sure.
prepare for them.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Roy.
Yeah, yeah.
All
My
right.
name is Roy Canterbury, and I've been host on Archery Talk 101. And we'll see you the next one of these. So stay tuned, and we'll make sure we talk to you at a different time.